What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, gonna rush through this pretty quick because, I've got 2 reviews to do and I have not eaten dinner yet and I'm starving. So, let's go ahead and hit it. Carabao Cup final. I'll go ahead and address why I've not reviewed the last couple games. It's because my girlfriend was in town and I always feel weird because I take time away from her basically because we only have like a limited amount of time together whenever she comes down or whenever I go up to visit. So I always feel weird taking time away from her, spending time with her to watch a game, and then taking more time away to do a review of it. So I have watched, obviously, the other 2 games, which I think was Palace and Lille. Palace, Lille, and then who else? Or no, that was it. Yeah, it was Palace and then Lille. I think those were the only 2 I missed. But, I mean, the Palace game, people have already blasted Lukaku for the game. And, yeah, it was pretty poor performance. And then the Lille, it was a step up. It felt a lot better. And I think a lot of that is just down to we had somebody up top that was willing to move for us. And even though I don't understand still why Werner's not getting time, I thought Havertz did well in the 9 position, which he normally doesn't. He doesn't make great runs. And there's still times when you can tell he's not very comfortable in that position. But I think the big thing that he's brought is just his willingness to work, his willingness to try to get in behind the defense, and his willingness to put the defense under pressure. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and talk about today. Not super like pissed off and frustrated that we lost, because I mean the Carabao Cup is not the biggest tournament in England. It would have been great to win it because that would be another trophy for our trophy cabinet, and it would mean that we've won every single tournament or every trophy that we could have so far. So losing it, especially in penalties, is always tough. But one, the fact that we took them to penalties, it is kind of like, okay, so we did play well enough to match them. And honestly, Liverpool have been playing pretty well of late. So the fact that we have not been at our best recently and we come into this one and we managed to hold them all the way to penalties is a good feeling. But let's go ahead and talk about the Kepa in the room. Terrible joke. I'm sticking with it, though. Yeah. Can we officially say that we have no reason to hold on to him anymore? Because really the only reason that we've kept him is because he's the penalty kick specialist, which I've actually talked about before. I don't think he's as good as everybody makes him out to be. I think he's solid. I think he does his homework and he makes sure he knows where they're going. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, I don't think he's really that great at a penalty kick. And today really showed. Aside from the fact that he gave up all 11 that he faced, there were several that he just completely... He looked like a fool for some of them. I mean, the 2 that went right down the middle and he dove out of the way, I think that's the most embarrassing thing that can happen to you as a keeper when you're in a penalty kick shootout, is you dive out of the way as they just pass it right down the middle. Like, that for me is the most embarrassing thing you can do. But then you add on top of that, he had 2 that he guessed the right way, and he couldn't even keep him out. There was the one from Van Dijk, which I thought was probably the most embarrassing one he faced, because Van Dijk just made him look like an idiot. I mean, he set himself on the correct side of the goal. He knew which way Van Dijk was about to go. He stepped over there. His starting position was not in the middle. It was like right here. And Van Dijk still put it past you because you're too slow. That's embarrassing. And then there was the other one. I can't remember. It may have been Kanade, I think, who didn't hit a great PK. He guessed the right way. He got his hand to it. Weak hand, and guess what? Right into the goal. And now Kelleher, I mean, he didn't do that great either on some of our penalties, because there were a couple where it felt like it was kind of a weak down low. But for most part, we tucked ours away very well. And Kelleher is not known as a penalty kick specialist, whereas Kepa, that's why he was subbed on. To save us. To save us in the penalty kick shootout. To make a save. To block a shot. That's why we subbed him on. He didn't do it once, and he had 11 chances to do it. Most keepers only have 5. He had 11 chances to save us and win us the game, and he failed. So can we stop calling him a penalty kick specialist now? Because he's not. He's decent at reading it, but he's not good enough as a keeper to actually do it when it matters. He's done it against some other teams, but against a team like Liverpool, if we faced Man City, if we faced Real or Barca or Bayern, if we faced any of those teams, same situation. He would probably not save any of them. But because he saved one against Villarreal, and he saved one against Southampton, and saved one against Villa, it's like, so who cares? Are they the top teams? No. We saw what happens in a game where we're up against a top team like Liverpool. We saw how good he is in the penalty kick shootout. He's not. So just get him out. He has no reason to be here anymore. He's not upseating Mendy for the number one. He's not good in a penalty kick shootout against the top teams. We have no reason to keep him around. So get him out the door. I don't want to see him anymore. This was kind of like one of those situations where I'm thinking, okay, if he goes in, because I knew he was going to. I mean, I knew it was going to be on Tuchel's mind. If we got into that extra time and it was a chance of penalties, he's probably going to save a sub and use it on Kepa. And all I'm thinking is, well, I guess we'll see what happens. Because I don't know if it's been him talking or if it's been the media talking for him, but I've heard some reports of him saying like, oh, he owes me this final. I deserve to start. This is not Kepa FC. This is Chelsea FC. This is not your club. The coach doesn't owe you anything. You go out there and you do your work for the team. And honestly, it's been a problem. We've seen it. There have been the huge controversies about what happened with Sarri and then him getting dropped over, who was it? Was it Caballero, I think? I mean, he's been a controversial figure. He's been somebody that it seems a lot about him. And granted, the keeper position is one that typically you're not going to get a whole lot of rotation in. So, of course, he's going to want to play as much as possible. But to come out and make those statements, that's selfish. That shows a me mentality. And if it's only about you, we don't need you. We've got a world-class keeper who was phenomenal today. And honestly, based on the saves he was making, I would have kept him in. I don't care if we have a penalty kick specialist on the bench. Mendy was feeling it today. The saves he was making were stunning. I would have kept him on just to see what he could do. But again, I know it's part of the plan. I know you're not going to change up the plan mid-game and go, oh, well, let's go with him instead now that he's playing so well. No, you're going to stick to what you already have in mind, which is Kepa is the one who typically does the penalty kicks, tries to save him. But again, after today, I really think it showed, unless it's one of those smaller sides like Villarreal, like Villa, like Southampton, unless you're facing a team like that, there's a very good chance he's not going to make a single save. Because he's not good enough to face off against top quality players when they're taking a penalty. Even if he guesses the right way, he's still going to miss it because he's not good enough. So, that's my say on Kepa. I'll leave it at that for him. I don't want to see him, and that's how I feel. As far as Atwell's concerned today, pretty poor performance from him. For the most part, VAR did okay, did a good job checking on the offsides. The one for Van Dijk was correct because similar to the two that Man U have had ruled back against them, and honestly similar to the one that Liverpool should have had ruled against them against Palace when they got the goal from when Firmino jumps up in front of the defender from an offside position, and then it misses him and goes through to whoever it was. I think it was Salah on the backside. That's another example of he didn't touch it, but he's affecting the play from an offside position. So it's offside. Van Dijk, he doesn't touch the ball, but he does have his arm on James, which affects him getting back to make the block on Mane. And since Van Dijk's offside, that means he's offside because he's affecting the play. That's the letter of the law. Now, does that need to be changed? I'm sure Liverpool fans are probably saying, yes, of course it does. But for the most part, it makes sense. Because if I'm offside and I do something to affect the play, if I step in front of a defender, that means I'm now involved. And I was offside when the ball was played. So I'm offside. That's how it's supposed to work. So I've seen a lot of stuff from like, oh, it's controversial VAR decision. I'm like, it wasn't really that controversial. Like, we've seen this happen before. It doesn't happen as often as it probably should. Because, again, Liverpool should have had a goal ruled off against Palace a few weeks ago. But aside from that, though, for Atwell, I mean, just a lot of really soft decisions. I mean, there was a point when it was like 9 fouls to 3 against us because just every single time Liverpool player turn, fall, I mean, he was giving it all the time. In fact, there were sometimes it would happen in the box and I would get concerned because he's been calling it so soft all game. I'm just waiting for him to be like, oh, well, he fell in the box, so penalty. Thankfully, he didn't do anything that dumb. But with that being said, Keita probably should have been off. There was the moment in the first half whenever he and Mount were wrestling and he throws his arm into Mount's face and then Mount gets a foul called against him somehow. That borderline yellow. It's one of those, most of the time referees, they kind of understand if it's just like you're battling for position and your arm goes into his face. Like they'll understand that, but there are some referees that you throw that arm back like that, they'll give you a card for it, even if it was accidental. So that could have been a yellow, it wasn't. And then in the second half, goes studs up into Chalaba's groin. Could have been a red on its own. I mean, it was ugly challenge. It was absolutely, yes, the ball's there to be won. So maybe taken into that effect, it could have been a yellow, which he didn't. I don't think he got a yellow for it either. But I mean, that's a dangerous challenge. That is a studs up into a player challenge. And he's still playing. I don't think he got carded for it. So there's definitely a feeling of favoritism toward Liverpool, which is ironic since, everybody's talking about, oh, Man City got favoritism against Everton and Man City gets all the favoritism calls. I'm like, I'm sorry. Have you not watched a Liverpool game or a Man U game? They get favoritism as well. It happens. But anyways, on to Tuchel's decisions today. And for the most part, I mean, the Kepa one in hindsight is really bad, but it's something that's decided before the game, like I said. The decision to bring on James for Azpilicueta, it's forced upon him because Azpilicueta was dealing with some sort of strain, or hopefully not a pull, because we don't need to lose him because he was really flying today for us. But I do wonder if there could have been a better option than James, because one, he's coming back from injury, so there's going to be a little bit of rustiness, but also the pace at which the game was being played was so high, and James is just not that energetic of a player. He's not a player that's going to be busting it up and down that wingback position. He's a player that when we have a lot of possession, we can get the ball out to him and he's going to do something great with it. And that wasn't our game today. Our game was a lot of, we absorb a lot of pressure and then we get out and then we keep possession a little bit, knocking around, trying to keep it fast and flowing. And James just isn't a player that fits into that very well. So I don't know if Hudson-Odoi would have done well over there. That's about the only other player I can think of that could have played that position. But I don't know. Again, it's a decision that was forced, because if not, then there's no reason why you take Azpilicueta off, because he was doing as much as he could down that right side. And then Lukaku and Werner coming on. Werner I don't have a problem with, but Lukaku, I just don't understand why. Why do you need him in this game? Because he's not going to do anything for you. And granted, he did better than he did against Palace, but there's not much he could have done to be worse than he was at Palace. So it's kind of like, okay, but you were good he wasn't really good today, but he was better today. But I mean, that's kind of expected, because he couldn't get much worse. And for Mount and Pulisic too, which, I mean, granted, neither of them had a great game and they wasted chances for us, but they're both working hard. They're both busting it. They're causing trouble for that Liverpool back line. They're not letting them just have plenty of time to just stroll around and pass it around. Lukaku's going to give them that time. He's not really going to put them under a whole lot of pressure. So, I don't know. I don't get that decision. It didn't hurt us that much, but it definitely felt like we were not really keeping as much possession once that happened. It felt like it was more Liverpool's game, and then we'd hit him on the counter occasionally. And then Jorginho came on in extra time and ended up being okay. Kovacic had really run himself to death today, so I guess he was just feeling it. And honestly, when Jorginho came in, the play was a lot slower. If he had come on earlier, I mean, he would have gotten run by so fast, because the game was just too fast for him today. But when overtime started, it definitely was a lot slower, a lot more methodical. And Jorginho, in games where the pace is not as high, he can be effective. So, and on top of that, the possibility of penalties, Jorginho is also somebody you want to take one. So, I get that decision. I did hate the fact that we were without Kovacic for the rest of extra time, because he was so phenomenal today. And then, of course, the Kepa one, like I said, in hindsight, not a good decision, but can't really blame Tuchel for that. So, overall, I mean, it was fine. I do feel, though, that Chalobah was in just because Christensen was hurt, and that's something that I hope Chalobah righted today in Tuchel's mind, because did you see him play? He was great. He was up against it, but he was still great. He kept Diaz mostly quiet today, and that's not something that's an easy feat. So, but anyways, on to individuals. Mendy, man of the match, without a doubt. I mean, 110 trillion%, it's got to be Mendy. Because talk about world class. Like, holy shite. There were so many moments when I'm thinking that's a goal, and then all of a sudden Mendy's saving it. I'm sorry, what? The Mane chance, the solid chance, I guess, it was Silva that saved it off the line, but Mendy, came out so big. He didn't really have much of a choice but to try to lift it, and in doing so gave Silva the chance to come back and clear it. There was the Van Dijk header. I'm trying to remember. There were a couple of Diaz at one point, one-on-one with Chalobah. Chalobah forced him wide, and it was basically kind of a, Diaz and Mendy right there. It's just the showdown, and Diaz tries to go through his legs. Mendy says nope. He's a phenomenal keeper, and again, he showed today why we had him in. We wanted to win this trophy. It's not one that you just, you know what, it's okay if we win. You want to win. And so you're going to put out your best option in keeper, and Mendy is the best option. I don't think Kepa would make any of the saves that he did today. Maybe one of them. Maybe the Mane chance, and that's just because it was kind of a point blank. But, he's not getting across to that Van Dijk header. That was back post. There's no way Kepa's moving to get to that. He's going to be... Like, that's his thing. So, watching Mendy make save after save, and so many great moments from him today. Is there any question who's the best keeper in the world right now? He's showing it time and time again. He's fantastic. So, in the back three, all of them played well. I can't really think of any of them that really struggled today. Again, Chalobah up against it against Luis Diaz because new player, so you don't know much about him, so you haven't had a chance to do your homework. But he's very technically gifted. He's got a lot of pace to him, very good at stopping and starting. And I thought Chalobah did well to keep him quiet. He had a couple moments where he was making something happen, but for the most part, he could have hurt us a lot more today if Chalobah hadn't done a good job of keeping him pretty isolated on that left side. So, aside from the one moment where he got in behind him and had a chance to go one-on-one, and even then Chalobah did enough to sort of force him to have to shoot at Mendy, and he didn't give him the back post. I thought Chalobah did very well keeping him very quiet today. Silva, obviously, just the same old Silva, very calm, very... I don't know. I don't even know how to describe his performances anymore. They're just so nice to watch, especially from somebody who is a defender. I love watching Silva play. He's such a good defender. It's not even... It doesn't even make any sense how he's 38, I think, and he's still managing to play as well as he does. The head on his shoulders is phenomenal. And then Rudiger had a couple crazy moments, but still very bullish, very strong, very fast, and for the most part kept Salah very quiet today. Very, very rarely do I remember anything coming out of Salah down that right side because Rudiger was almost always there to shut him up. So, as far as the wing backs are concerned, Spilicueta, very energetic today. Just all over the pitch, trying to make stuff happen, getting back defensively. He's a great defender. I don't remember if I talked about this before, but I remember seeing Neil Warnock because, he's such a great mind in the footballing game. So, of course, let's write articles dedicated to what he said. But he called him lucky, to be at a club like Chelsea. I'm like, yes, there is an amount of luck to get to play for such a big club, but he's a good player. He's a very good defender, and he shows it time and time again with how good he is in one-on-one situations. The only time that I worry about him is whenever he's having to chase back, but rarely does he let that happen. When he's one-on-one, it doesn't matter how fast the player is, how tricky they are, he's very good at shutting them down. So, but yeah, very good today. Shame that he came off. Hopefully, again, whatever it was wasn't too bad. But very solid performance from him. Alonso, kind of up and down today. He had some good moments in the attack. Defensively, he was getting caught out again, but Rudiger did a good job of covering for him. But yeah, he's just still not really showing me a whole lot. And once Chilwell comes back, it's going to be no question. As soon as Chilwell's fit to play, he's going to get that starting position again because Alonso has not done anything to show why he deserves to start over Chilwell. And obviously, Sarr's not really a player. So, in the midfield, Conte and Kovacic. I already talked a bit about Kovacic, but he was great today. He was pretty much the Conte role today. He was all over the place, winning the ball back, making interceptions. But he was also very good on the ball. Very good at turning players, keeping possession, making stuff happen, great passes forward. So, I mean, if Mendy had not had such a phenomenal game and had so many game-saving moments, Kovacic would have taken man of the match for me because of how well he played today. Whereas Conte, still the energetic, little ball of energy that we're expecting from him, but yeah, on the ball today, he was really struggling under the pressure. Like they were, as soon as he got a touch, they were right on him, and typically he's very good about poking it out of those situations or at least finding a pass so he's not put under that much pressure. But today he really struggled with that. There were several moments I remember him getting stripped or losing possession, but I know that's not really his game, but it's still worrying whenever he loses the ball because there's that feeling of, well, now they've poked it off of him and now he's not behind them. And anytime Conte's not behind them, he will work back and try to get back in position, but it's still that anxiety-inducing moment. In the front three, Pulisic and Mount, both of them pretty much had the same game. Worked hard, made things happen in the front three, but God, they need to freaking learn how to finish. Because holy crap, was it bad. I mean, Mount had easily the worst of the two with the second half chance that he puts off the post. First half, yeah, he should have probably put it on target, but he actually did well to connect with it as well as he did because it was behind him. But knowing Mount's quality, probably should be hitting the target at least. And then Pulisic, I mean, the one-on-one chance, I mean, you got to put it past him. You got to just head up, see what's there, and then find the corners or something. But it's frustrating, but their performance overall was still good. It was good to see us create so many good chances. It was good to see us be as creative as we were because that's something we've lacked recently. We've scored 1 or 2 goals in the past several games, but they've not been after a run of great play. Most of them have been like, okay, we finally created the one chance, and then boom, there's your goal. It's not like we're creating chance after chance after chance after chance. Most of them are just half chances. Today, we created several really good chances. And I think a lot of that is down to Mount and Pulisic. And their hard work in winning the ball back, their hard work in keeping possession whenever it's kind of a 50-50 challenge. And then Havertz as well, I thought did very well being kind of a target man a little bit. Like he did a good job of being somebody we could play to, and then he takes a touch, lets everybody get up with him, and kind of, I guess, directs the play, figures out where we're going to go. I thought he played that role very well. I still don't think he's great as a number 9, but I can see where he's definitely coming along in the sense of he's at least filling that role well enough to where we can create things off of him. We can use him as basically the wall pass or as somebody that can turn the defender and get in behind him. So, yeah, all 3 of them I thought played okay. Definitely created some chances that should have been scored, but overall the work rate and the creativity was a lot better than I have been seeing when Lukaku was on. As far as the subs, James came on, and like I said, I don't think this game was suited for him. I want to see him be that working player like Azpilicueta can do because he has good abilities both defensively and on the attacking side of the ball. But his work rate doesn't really put him in those positions enough in games, especially like this one, where we have so much pace going back and forth and back and forth. Typically, he's just sort of out there waiting for the game to come to him, and I would like to see more him just really trying to make things happen, trying to be the focal point of our attack because, I mean, it's great to see him back because I don't know if he was supposed to be back this soon or not, but he's definitely something we've been missing on that side with how much creativity he has. So I just want to see the work ethic from him grow more. I want to see him really pushing himself more to get himself involved and to be more than just the, hey, whenever you guys want, just send it out to me because I'm out here. I want him to really try to make things happen and try to affect the game more on his own. And then Lukaku and Werner. Werner, I mean, came off the bench, and I can see why Tuchel doesn't exactly trust him to be somebody that's creative in the front 3 because there were definitely moments where he was struggling to make anything happen because his quality on the ball is not the best, and we know this. However, I still don't understand. You watch how hard he works, you watch how much he wants to be on the ball, and he wants to affect the play, he wants to makes things happen. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he doesn't get picked more. And it's something that a lot of people weren't understanding. Tuchel, how can you keep picking him last season? But you watch how good we look whenever he's on the field because of how much work he's doing off the ball and how much he's opening up the spaces for the players around him. And it's hard to see why not to pick him. And I honestly thought again today he wasn't great on the ball. He had some moments where he gave it away cheaply or it wasn't the greatest pass, but he's still working so hard that I'm thinking it's great to have him. And what's really ironic too is they focused on the fact that Tuchel was saying, talking about we wanted players to get in behind. We wanted players that can get in behind the defense. And they're talking about it like, oh yeah, that's great for somebody like Havertz or Pulisic. I'm like, that's great for somebody like Werner. That's what Werner does. He plays off the back of the defense and he gets in behind him. That's what he's known for. So why are we not using him? So I don't know. It's either something's happening behind closed doors or there's just something that I'm missing, just like with Jorginho, where it's just like, no, you don't understand. He's not providing enough for us. I don't understand how that's possible, but whatever. Lukaku, like I said, he was better today, but it wasn't like he was phenomenal or he was a great striker or finally worth the money that we paid for him. Like, he was just okay. He had some moments where he held up the ball well. He had some moments where he was more involved in the play than he has been in the past 5 or 6 games that he's played. But overall, it's still not good enough. It's like he had that one good game against whoever it was right after the whole interview drama. He came out and there's one game where he just came out flying. I'm thinking, great, love to see it. And then like the next several games, it was just back to the same old boring standing around watching the play. So unless he can apologize, I can't talk tonight. Unless he can do this consistently, I still don't see any reason that he should play over Werner. There's just no reason for it. So, and then Jorginho was the final sub, and like I said, it was a better game for him at this point because it was in extra time, so it was a little bit slower. There wasn't as much of a high press on from Liverpool, so he was allowed to play a bit more. But it's not like all of a sudden he turns into Fabregas. He's still not that good. He's just better whenever he has time to play. So he was able to affect the play for us a bit more and give us some better balls forward than Conte was giving us at least, but it wasn't like he was fantastic or anything, but I don't know. Again, it's not the worst competition to lose in the finals, but it still is frustrating. There's still that feeling of like we could have won it. It was there for us to win, especially when you look at the chances. Their chances that they created were missed because of good defending or good keeping. Our chances that we missed were because of bad finishing. So it's like where they can look at it and say, well, their finishing could have been slightly better, but Mendy, what a fantastic keeper. We're going to look at it and say, Kelleher didn't even have to be a good keeper. You just missed. You had the chance one-on-one and you put it on the post or you missed the goal entirely. So there's that frustration that I think that's going to be there, that this game was there to be won. We had it in the bag. We created just as many good chances. Problem is we wasted our own chances, whereas our keeper saved their chances. So I think I'm done talking about it. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.